Ren Calder had worked a night shift at the Imperial Deep Space Monitoring Station for almost 7 years, and he knew every sound the place made. The soft hum of the cooling vents, the faint clicking of the old metal floor panels, the steady pulse from the long-range scanners. Nothing ever changed. Most nights were calm, almost boring. That was why he liked this job. Out on the edge of the Orion expanse, far away from crowded planets and noisy cities, he felt at peace. He liked the quiet, he liked the routine, he liked knowing that nothing unexpected ever happened here. But on this night, something did. Ren was sitting in his usual seat, sipping a cup of lukewarm synth coffee and trying to stay awake. He tapped the screen lazily, checking the same readouts he always checked. Ship traffic was normal. Weather patterns in the outer belts were stable. The gravitational tides were calm. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous, nothing worth worrying about. He leaned back in his chair and sighed. Another slow shift, he thought. Another night of nothing. That was when a faint beep suddenly echoed across his scanner panel. It was soft at first, almost too small to notice, but Ren felt his heart jump. This beep was not part of the routine. This beep meant something new had entered detection range. He leaned forward, coffee forgotten, and tapped the screen to zoom in on the anomaly. For a moment, the screen flickered something that almost never happened. Ren frowned. A flicker usually meant either a technical glitch or an extremely strong energy source. The flicker returned, stronger this time, and the scanner displayed a brief flash of red before stabilizing again. Then he saw it. A huge dark mass was moving slowly across the radar grid. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't classified. It wasn't even recognized by the station's powerful software. That alone was strange, because the Imperial database contained information about every known ship type in the galaxy, from the smallest cargo pod to the largest battlecruiser. If the system couldn't identify something, it meant one of two things. Either it was a natural object like a drifting asteroid, or it was a ship no one had seen before. Ren's eyebrows drew together. The size was wrong for an asteroid. Too clean, too smooth, too perfectly shaped, and the heat signature, yes there it was too steady to be natural. It had to be a ship. But what kind of ship? He zoomed in again, increasing the resolution. The outline grew sharper, long-armored, a reinforced front. No clear engines, but an enormous energy core glowing at the center. The more he studied it, the more unsettled he felt. This was like no vessel he'd ever seen. No curves, no insignias, no navigation lights. It didn't resemble the sleek designs of the Imperial fleet or the blocky structures used by Outer Rim smugglers. It didn't match any pirate ship blueprints. It didn't match anything at all. For the first time in hours, Ren felt completely awake. He tried to hail the object, sending a standard communication ping. The system waited for a reply. 1 second, 2-3 nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. Ships always responded. Even hostile ships responded, if only to threaten or mock the station. But this one was silent, completely silent, like it wasn't even trying to pretend it had a crew on board. Ren felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Something about this wasn't right. He checked the trajectory, expecting the usual result. Ships traveling near the expanse usually passed by the station on their way somewhere else. But when the trajectory line appeared, Ren's mouth fell open. The unknown vessel was moving in a perfectly straight line, directly toward the Imperial core. He blinked at the screen, hoping he was misreading it. He adjusted the calculations, double-checked the coordinates, and ran the data through 2 different systems. The answer was the same every time. The ship was heading toward the heart of the Empire, the most protected, populated, and strategically important region in all of Imperial space. And it wasn't slowing down. It wasn't changing course. It wasn't even pretending to wander. It had a destination, and it was going there fast. Ren's hands trembled as he activated the emergency alert line. Normally he avoided using it. It connected directly to Central Command, and they didn't appreciate false alarms. But this was no false alarm. He needed them to see this. A tired voice answered. Monitoring control. This is Central Command receiving. What is the emergency? Ren swallowed hard. Unregistered vessel detected entering Imperial territory. Massive in size. No response to hails. Trajectory locked onto the core. There was a pause, a long one. Then the voice said, "Repeat that." Ren repeated it. Within seconds, the calm voice turned sharp. "Transmitting visual now," Ren added, and sent the data feed. He could hear muffled voices in the background, officers rising from their stations. Footsteps, papers moving. The entire command center was waking up. Ren didn't blame them. Anyone who saw what he saw would feel the same cold fear. The voice returned. "Officer Calder, confirm. Is the vessel No," Ren said quietly. "Is it communicating?" "No." "Do you detect weapon signatures?" Ren checked the readings. Double quotes ... "There's energy buildup, but it's not like any weapon I know. Is it manned?" Ren stared at the blank, silent ship moving steadily through the void. Its surface was dark and smooth, almost too perfect, like metal grown instead of built. No windows, no openings, no escape hatches, no visible propulsion. A ghost ship, he thought. A war machine from nowhere. "I don't know," Ren admitted, his voice barely a whisper. The command officer inhaled sharply. "We're scrambling analysts. Keep tracking it. Do not lose visual." "As if I could," Ren muttered under his breath. The unknown warship crept closer on the scanner, its presence dominating every inch of the radar grid. Ren felt a growing pressure in his chest, a fear that didn't feel like ordinary fear. It felt like instinct, like something ancient inside him was warning him to run, even though there was nowhere to go. He watched the energy readings rise, the glow inside the ship intensify. It was gathering power, preparing for something, maybe a hyperspace jump, maybe a weapon activation. Ren couldn't tell. He wasn't sure anyone in the Empire could tell. He thought about the billions of people living in the Imperial core families. Workers, children, entire cities shining under the warm lights of the Empire. He imagined the ship reaching them. The thought made his stomach twist. This wasn't a lost freighter or a wandering scout. This was something far more dangerous, something purposeful, something without hesitation or fear or mercy. The ship continued cutting through space, straight toward the heart of civilization. Silent, determined, unstoppable. Ren sat frozen in his chair, staring at the thing that should not exist but very clearly did, and he realized, with a sinking certainty, that the quiet, peaceful routine of his job was over. Nothing about tonight was normal, nothing about tonight was safe. Something had arrived in Imperial space, something unknown, something powerful, and something heading toward the core with zero mercy, and Ren Calder was the first person in the entire Empire to witness it. Central Command did not take long to understand the danger. After Ren's report, the entire monitoring floor lit up with warning lights and alarm tones that were rarely used. Officers rushed between consoles, voices overlapped, and the calm order that normally filled the place disappeared almost instantly. Even through the cumline, Ren could feel the tension rising like a storm. The unknown ship kept moving without slowing, without turning, without sending any kind of signal. It traveled in a perfectly straight path, almost as if the rest of the universe didn't exist. Its huge shape glowed faintly from its center, and the scanners kept detecting increasing levels of energy, steady, controlled, and completely unnatural. Ren watched the trajectory line again. Nothing had changed. This ship was still heading toward the Imperial core. No sign of doubt, no hesitation. Whatever was inside or controlling it had a clear target. Central Command patched in a second officer, then a third, then an entire tactical team. Ren's screen split into multiple sections, showing serious faces staring back at him. These were some of the highest-ranking people in the Empire's defense structure. They didn't spend time on routine alerts. They didn't show up for small problems. Their presence told Ren only one thing. This was becoming the most serious threat the Empire had seen in decades. Officer Caldor, a woman with sharp eyes, said, "We need constant updates. Keep feeding us every piece of data your station gathers." "Yes, Commander," Ren replied, his voice stiff with nerves. He had never spoken directly to Commander Sarah Jovan before. She was famous for stopping a rebel fleet with only 3 ships. Now she was sitting in front of him, staring at the same unknown vessel he was. "What is its current speed?" she asked. "Still increasing," Ren said, glancing at the numbers rising steadily. "Faster than any known Imperial battleship." Jovan frowned. "That's impossible. Nothing that size moves like that." But the data didn't lie. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't following any known rules. Ren felt sweat forming on his forehead. He wiped it quickly, but it didn't help. The room around him suddenly felt too small, too hot, and too quiet, as if the space station itself knew something terrible was approaching. The communication channels continued filling with chatter. Analysts on distant planets tried to identify the ship by comparing it with thousands of saved designs. Engineers studied the energy readings. Security teams secured every major route into the core, but none of their efforts changed the simple, terrifying truth. No one had ever seen a ship like this. One officer whispered, not realizing his mic was active. "It looks dead, like a corpse floating through space." But Ren knew corpses didn't move with perfect precision. Corpses didn't travel at such terrible speeds. Corpses didn't glow with strange, inhuman energy. This ship was alive. Not alive like a creature, but alive in its purpose. Every minute, it grew closer. When the Imperial fleet was mobilized, Ren watched it happen through his screens. Dozens of ships launched from nearby patrol stations, sleek destroyers, bulky cruisers, even to battle carriers. They formed a defensive line in front of the unknown vessel, shining brightly against the dark background of space. Ren felt a small breath of relief. The Imperial fleet was powerful. Even if they didn't know what this ship was, surely they could slow it down or force it off course. The fleet sent a final hail. No answer. They activated warning beacons. Still nothing. The commander of the lead carrier issued a threat, loud and clear. "Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted territory. Change course now or we will open fire." Silence. Ren watched quietly as the fleet prepared to attack. Their weapons glowed as energy flowed through them. Missiles armed, plasma cannons lined up. Everything was ready. The commander spoke the order. Fire. A wave of light burst across the screen. Beams streaked toward the unknown vessel, Missiles sped forward, and the space between the ships lit up like a field of yellow stars. Then all at once the unknown ship did something none of them expected. A sphere of shimmering force expanded around it. A dome of energy, the color of deep blue, almost invisible at first. But as the Imperial attack reached it, the effect became horrifyingly clear. Every missile disintegrated instantly. Every beam dissolved into thin air. Every shot vanished the moment it touched a shield. Ren felt his heart stop. What kind of shield is that? Someone whispered. The unknown ship didn't slow, didn't turn, didn't react at all. It simply continued forward, as if the fleet wasn't even there. The Imperial fleet tried again, firing heavier weapons this time. Nothing worked. The shield absorbed everything without leaving even a single spark behind. Then the unknown ship finally reacted. It unleashed a pulse of energy, soundless, colorless, but so powerful that every Imperial scanner exploded with warnings. The pulse expanded outward and hit the fleet like a tidal wave. And suddenly, ships started disappearing. Not exploding, not burning, just vanishing. One by one, each ship blinked out of existence. Their lights cut off. Their signals went dead. Their engines went silent. It was as if they had been erased from reality, wiped away like dust on a screen. Ren stared at the radar in horror. Entire wings were gone. Hundreds of pilots gone. Thousands of crew members. The fleet commander shouted for retreat, but the pulse was already spreading. The survivors turned their ships around and fled at full speed. Ren watched their signals scatter, many flickering like dying stars. Within a minute, the entire fleet had been defeated, destroyed without a trace. Central Command fell into stunned silence. No one moved, no one spoke. Ren's hands trembled again, but this time with pure fear. The Empire had never faced anything that could wipe out a fleet so easily. Commander Joven finally broke the silence. "We need to understand how that pulse works," she said. "Analyze everything, every piece of data." The analysts obeyed immediately, working with frantic speed. Ren listened to their voices, fast, nervous, confused. "This technology isn't Imperial. It's not Rebel either. It's not even alien, or if it is, it's like nothing we've ever encountered. How did it generate that much power? How is it moving so fast with no visible propulsion? What kind of energy core is that?" Ren felt a shiver run down his spine. The more they learned, the worse it sounded. Every answer raised 10 more questions. Every discovery made the ship seem more unstoppable. Someone finally said the words everyone was thinking. "This is a weapon, not a ship." The room fell quiet again. A weapon, automated, silent, unstoppable, heading directly toward their most populated worlds. Ren swallowed hard. His throat felt dry, his chest tight. He imagined the core again. Billions of innocent people, families asleep in their homes, workers traveling through the city towers, children playing under artificial skylights. None of them knew what was coming. The unknown vessel did not change its speed. It did not change its direction. It did not react to any threats or any attempts at communication. It just kept coming. Central Command redirected all intelligence efforts toward understanding the ship. Engineers continued studying its shape, its armor, its systems. Strategists debated emergency actions. Generals discussed evacuations. But no one knew what to do. No one had a plan for a threat like this. Ren, still sitting alone in his station, watched the ship approach on his monitor. He felt shock, fear, confusion, and something else, something heavier, helplessness. He was watching the beginning of something terrible, something that might decide the fate of the entire Empire, and all he could do was stare at a screen. He wished the ship would stop. He wished it would turn away. He wished someone could reach whoever or whatever controlled it. But the ship kept moving, silent, cold, merciless. And as the minutes passed, one thing became painfully clear to everyone across the Imperial Defense Network. This was no accident. This was a deliberate attack, and the attacker was unlike anything the Empire had ever faced. The Imperial fleet's defeat hit everyone like a punch to the chest. For a while, no one could even speak. Ren kept staring at the empty radar lines where entire wings of ships had once been. It didn't feel real. How could something so huge and powerful erase a fleet in seconds? How could a ship with no name, no signal, and no identity be stronger than everything the Empire had built over centuries? But silence couldn't last. The unknown warship was still moving toward the Imperial core, and every minute it got closer. The Empire didn't have the luxury to sit in shock. Finally, Commander Joven's voice cut through the chaos. "Get me engineering, intelligence, and all surviving patrol units. We need a plan now." Her tone was calm, but the tension underneath it was hard to miss. Everyone understood the truth. This was a race against time. If they didn't stop the ship before it reached the core, the results could be catastrophic beyond imagination. Ren's console filled with new data streams as different teams synced their feeds with the monitoring station. Diagrams of the unknown vessel appeared on his screen, detailed scans collected by the scouts before they vanished. Engineers zoomed into every part of the design, pointing out unusual structures, energy signatures, and strange patterns in the metal. One engineer muttered, "This hull looks grown, not built. It's not manufactured in parts. It's one piece. Like biological, Someone asked. No, not alive, but crafted in a way we can't replicate. It almost looks intentional, another voice said softly, like every inch was made for war. The energy core fascinated and frightened them the most. It glowed with a deep, violet light that pulsed like a heartbeat. It made Ren uneasy every time he looked at it, as if the ship itself were breathing. They studied its movement patterns too. Straight-line trajectory, perfect stability, no evasive maneuvers. It didn't react to attack, didn't defend itself until it needed to, and didn't slow down even when the Imperial fleet surrounded it. It wasn't acting like a vessel controlled by living beings. Was acting like a machine with a clear target, a machine that could not be negotiated with a machine built for one purpose. Every team came to the same disturbing conclusion. The warship was unmanned, not abandoned, not disabled, not damaged, completely unmanned, completely automated, and completely focused. Ren felt the weight of that realization crash into him. A ship that powerful without a crew meant a mind, an artificial one, was behind its movements. A mind that couldn't be scared, confused, or distracted. A mind that wouldn't hesitate, Commander Joven demanded. If it's automated, there must be a weakness, something in the programming, a system we can break. Analysts began digging deeper into the incoming data, searching for anything that looked unusual. Ren watched the streams flood across his screen, patterns, lines, waves of information that made no sense to him. Then came the first breakthrough. One of the youngest analysts, a thin man with shaky hands, zoomed in on a strange structure on the back of the ship. It was long, thin, and almost hidden under heavy armor. Look here, he said, enlarging the image. This pattern isn't part of the hull. It's external. What is it? Joven asked. Possibly a quantum relay spine. A communication core for automated targeting systems. That small thing controls the whole vessel, someone questioned. Not the whole ship, the analyst explained. But maybe its accuracy. Automated warships need constant real-time calculations. Without this relay, the ship might lose precision. Ren leaned forward. This was the first hopeful thing he had heard in hours. So if we destroy it, it might not stop the ship, the analyst said quickly, but it could blind it. It wouldn't be able to track targets accurately. Commander Joven nodded slowly. If it can't target, it can't destroy. But it could still fly into the core, another officer pointed out. Then it becomes a much easier target for our ground defenses, Joven replied. We can disable it once it's blind. Hope began to grow thin and shaky, but still hope. But then came the next problem. The quantum relay spine was protected by an energy pattern none of them recognized. It shifted constantly, folding and unfolding, almost like a three-dimensional puzzle rotating in the dark. The shield around it wasn't solid, it moved like liquid metal. How do we hit something surrounded by that? Ren asked before he could stop himself. Everyone fell silent. The question hung over them, heavy and painful. Finally, another engineer spoke up. We don't, not with normal fire, but maybe with a precision strike at the exact moment the shield rotates. What timing window are we talking about? Joven asked. The engineer hesitated. Less than a second. Ren felt his stomach twist. That's impossible. Not impossible, the engineer corrected, just almost impossible. Ren didn't know whether to feel encouraged or terrified. Commander Joven straightened. Then we'll need pilots capable of that precision. She began sending out orders immediately. The Empire's elite strike pilots were summoned, even those on distant assignments. Only a small group of them had the skill to make such a shot. Some called them the Ghost Wing, a squadron known for near-superhuman reflexes, but even they had never faced anything like this. Meanwhile, Ren watched the unknown warship creeps closer and closer. It was now halfway between the Expanse and the Imperial border. The countdown began. If the strike team didn't act soon, the ship would be unstoppable despite all the tension. Ren couldn't stop thinking about something odd he had seen earlier. A glitch in the energy pattern around the relay spine. A moment almost too fast to notice where the shield flickered. He replayed the footage again and again. Yes, there it was. A small flicker every time the ship adjusted its course by a fraction of a degree. It wasn't much, but it was something. Ren immediately notified the engineering team. They analyzed it, compared it, measured it. You're right, one engineer said, sounding shocked. When the ship recalibrates its course, the protective field thins. It's still too fast for anyone to hit, another warned. But at least it's a pattern. Commander Joven said. A pattern meant predictability. Predictability meant opportunity. The Ghost Wing arrived soon after. Their ships were fast, agile, and designed for precision. The strike team connected to Ren's monitoring station, letting him guide them through the calculations in real time. You've done well, Officer Caldo, one pilot said over the channel. We'll take it from here. But Ren didn't relax. If anything, he felt more nervous. He was the one watching the energy patterns. He was the one tracking the relay spine's flickers. He was the one shouting the timing. He was part of this mission now. The strike team launched toward the unknown warship, their ships glowing like silver shooting stars. Ren watched them approach, tiny compared to the enormous vessel. As they got closer, the warship responded. Not with a pulse, not with an attack, but with a new wave of energy sharp and scanning, as if it were detecting threats. "It knows we're here," a pilot whispered. Ren felt a cold chill run through his body. The ship wasn't alive, but something inside it understood danger. It recognized threats. It adapted, but the strike team pressed on. Ren called out, "Timing window coming 3 seconds to 1 now." The pilots fired. The beams struck the rotating shield, but the energy twisted, catching the shots and dissolving them before they hit the relay. "Missed," one pilot growled. "Going again." They circled back, dodging sudden energy bursts from the warship. The ship wasn't firing weapons, it was using shockwaves to disrupt their flight paths. Ren's voice shook as he counted again. "Window in 5-4-3-2- now." Another shot. Another failure. The shield moved too fast. The timing was too perfect. The pilots kept trying. Ren kept calling out windows. Engineers kept sending updated calculations. Commander Joven kept the command center steady. Minutes felt like hours. Then something unexpected happened. The warship made a small adjustment in its course, a larger one than before, and the shield flickered longer than usual. Ren screamed into the channel before thinking, Now, the lead pilot fired the moment. Ren shouted. The shot passed through the flicker. It hit the relay spine dead center. A blinding flash exploded across the ship. The shield shattered like breaking glass. The energy core inside the vessel pulsed violently, and the ship staggered from the impact. Then, everything went silent. The unknown warship slowed, its energy readings dropped, its trajectory shifted slightly off course. Commander Joven let out a long breath that sounded like relief. The pilots cheered. Engineers clapped. Analysts slumped over their consoles. They had done it. They had blinded the warship, but as Ren watched the vessel drift aimlessly, he could not help feeling a cold, uneasy weight in his chest. Because although the ship was blind, it was still moving. Still massive, still dangerous, and still heading toward the core just no longer with perfect accuracy. They had won a battle, but the warship wasn't finished. Not yet. And Ren knew the hardest part was still ahead. The news that the warship had been blinded spread through Central Command like a breath of fresh air. People who had been shaken with fear finally allowed themselves to relax a little. Even the constant alarm lights seemed dimmer now. But the relief did not last long, because the victory they had achieved was only half a victory. The unknown ship was still moving, still heavy with impossible power, still large enough to erase planets if it crashed into one. Blinding it had slowed it and broken its perfect targeting ability, but it had not stopped its journey toward the Imperial core. Ren watched the drifting giant on his screen. Without its targeting systems, the ship no longer flew with sharp precision. Instead, it wavered slightly, adjusting its direction randomly. It reminded him of a giant beast that had lost one eye but was still walking forward, unstoppable and dangerous trajectory. Commander Joven asked. An analyst swallowed nervously. It's no longer on a direct line, but it's still heading dangerously close to core space. How long before it reaches the outer defense ring? 4 hours, maybe less. Joven closed her eyes for a moment, as if calculating hundreds of possibilities inside her mind. When she opened them again, her voice was firm. We don't get a second chance. If that ship enters the core, even blind, it will still destroy everything in its path. We finish this now. In the following minutes, the command room transformed into a hive of intense activity. Everyone knew what was needed. A final mission to destroy the warship completely. It wouldn't be easy. Blinding it had been difficult, but destroying it would be far more dangerous. That ship might not be able to target directly anymore, but it still had enough energy to unleash waves and pulses that could erase entire squads. We need a team willing to go right into the heart of that thing, Joven said. The Ghostwing? Ren asked, hoping. Joven shook her head. They did their part. Their ships are damaged, low on fuel, and their pilots are exhausted. Sending them again is a death sentence. Her eyes shifted across the room until they rested on a new group of faces joining the channel. An elite engineering and demolition squad. These were specialists known for boarding missions, the kind where they had to break apart enemy ships from the inside. This team did not fight from a distance. They fought face to face with enemy machinery. Their leader, Captain Arya Solin, was a calm, fearless woman with sharp features and a voice that commanded respect. She saluted Joven. We've reviewed the schematics gathered from our scans. There's one weak point that might allow internal overload. Explain, Joven said. The energy core inside the warship is overpowered. Blinding the targeting system caused the core to shift into a stabilization mode. It's trying to rebalance itself. If we overload that core with a precise detonation, the ship will collapse on itself. Ren felt hope rise again. So we only need to place an explosive charge inside. Arya nodded. Yes, but getting inside will be the hard part. The ship's hull is still too strong to penetrate from outside. We need to use one of the small maintenance ports. Ren frowned. Maintenance? Why would an automated warship need that? Arya smirked. Even machines need repair systems. The plan was simple in words but dangerously complex in reality. The strike team would fly close to the drifting warship. They would attach themselves to its shifting hull, locate a maintenance hatch, cut through it, and enter the ship. Once inside, they would reach the energy core chamber and plant a high-power explosive. After setting the timer, they would escape before the core erupted. Ren couldn't help imagining each step going wrong. The warship could react. It could release more energy pulses. The inside might be filled with automated defenses. Or worse, there could be something inside none of them expected at all. But Arya's squad showed no fear. They were trained for missions others considered impossible. This was exactly the kind of challenge they were built for. The command channel filled with final preparations. Ships were fueled. Tools and explosive devices were checked. Armor suits were sealed and tested. Ren listened, feeling more nervous with every passing second. He wasn't part of the mission directly, but he felt connected to each moment. He had been the first person to see the ship. He had watched it move, watched it destroy, watched it blind, and now he watched the Empire's last hope prepare to face it. "Officer Ren Calder," Arya said suddenly. He looked up, surprised she was addressing him. "Your scanner data is more accurate than anything we have. We want you guiding our entry path." Ren blinked. "Me, you understand its patterns better than anyone. You noticed the shield flicker before any of us. We're trusting you." Ren felt the weight of her words settle on his shoulders. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like an ordinary officer who had gotten unlucky by being on duty at the wrong time. But now people he had never met were placing their lives in his hands. He nodded. "I'll guide you." "Good," Arya said. "Then let's end this." The strike ships launched with a roar of engines. Ren followed their signals as they approached the massive warship. It hung silently in space like a dark mountain floating through the void. Its outer structure glowed faintly with energy that pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. "Approaching hull," Arya said. Ren zoomed in on the ship's outer shell. It wasn't smooth like metal. It had strange patterns, almost like veins or circuits running through it. Lines of purple energy moved across its surface in slow waves. "Watch out for sudden pulses," Ren warned. "The ship still reacts to movement." The team moved closer. The warship's energy patterns began to glow brighter, and Ren felt fear spike inside him. "It's sensing you," he said quickly. "Stay low, reduce your output." The pilots cut their engines to minimum levels. For a moment, the warship's energy calmed down again. Arya's ship reached the surface first, its landing gear gripping the hull with magnetic clamps. The other ships followed, attaching themselves carefully. "We're on the hull," Arya reported, looking for maintenance entry. Ren scanned the surface for structural weaknesses. The maintenance ports were tiny, almost invisible, disguised within the ship's complex design. "There," he said, marking a spot, "under the fourth energy vein. That small circular plate." Arya moved toward it, using magnetic boots to walk across the hull. Her team followed each step, sending a faint ripple through the ship's energy field. As they reached the maintenance hatch, the ship suddenly pulsed again, a sharp right wave of light that spread across its entire body. "Move," Ren shouted. The team jumped back, just as an energy shockwave burst from the hatch area. If they had been any closer, the shock could have vaporized them. "That was close," Arya muttered. "This ship is reacting faster now." "It knows you're inside its perimeter," Ren said. "It's trying to defend itself." Arya's team took a deep breath and approached again, slower this time. They used specialized tools to cut through the hatch. The metal was stubborn, harder than anything they had seen before, but the tools eventually broke through. The hatch slid open with a deep, echoing creak. Inside was darkness, heavy, thick, unnatural darkness, like light was being absorbed instead of blocked. "We're going in," Arya said. The team switched on their suit lights and slipped inside the warship one by one. Ren watched their signals move slowly through the narrow passageways. The inside of the ship was unlike anything they expected. It wasn't like a normal ship filled with wires, machinery, and structure. Instead, it looked alive in a cold, mechanical way. The walls pulsed with purple light, and strange metal structures grew like roots from the ceiling and floor. "It's like walking inside a machine's body," one soldier whispered. As they moved deeper, the ship reacted. The walls shifted slightly, closing and opening in unpredictable patterns. Mechanical tendrils unfolded from the sides, sensing the movement of the intruders. "Keep moving," Arya said. "Don't touch anything." They continued until they reached a large chamber, the core chamber. At the center hovered the massive energy core, glowing with violent power. It pulsed rapidly, as if panicking or trying to recover from the relay damage. "This is it," Arya said, planting the charge. Her team moved quickly, placing explosive devices around the core. Each one was armed with a timer synced to their escape plan, but as they prepared to leave, the core reacted. It pulsed harder. The walls closed. The ship shook violently. "It knows what we're doing," one soldier yelled. "Run," Arya shouted. They sprinted back through the passages as the ship began releasing energy waves. Ren tracked their movement, guiding them through collapsing tunnels and shifting walls. "Left, now right. Duck under that." The ship screamed a deep mechanical roar that echoed through every corridor. Ren had never heard anything like it. The team reached the hatch just as the corridor behind them collapsed. They launched themselves onto their ships, detached from the hull, and flew away at full speed. Detonation in 5 seconds. Arya said. Ren watched the warship drift. He held his breath. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. A blinding explosion erupted from the warship's core. Light burst out in all directions, curling around the ship like a burning wave. The enormous vessel cracked, twisted, and collapsed into itself. Its entire body folded inward, disappearing in a massive implosion of light and energy. The unknown warship was gone, and in the quiet that followed, Ren finally allowed himself to breathe again. Ren had never imagined that the end of everything could feel this quiet. The Imperial core, normally the brightest and busiest place in the galaxy, was dark now. Entire city lights were shut down to reduce power signatures. Civilian ships hid inside shielded hangars. Streets were empty. Even the sky, once filled with colorful travel lanes and patrols, seemed still, as if holding its breath. Billions of people sat inside their shelters, waiting for news, praying for safety, hoping the empire they trusted was strong enough to protect them. But Ren knew the truth. The empire was strong. The fleet was powerful. The defenses were unmatched. Yet none of it seemed to matter against the warship. Now approaching the core, the Ravager. The name came from intercepted fragments of an ancient language, recovered by Imperial analysts only hours earlier. A name spoken in fearful stories from half-forgotten civilizations. Some called it a myth, a legend, a weapon built long ago by a race that vanished without explanation. A machine created not for war but for erasing entire star systems. Now it was real. It was coming, and it was almost here. Ren sat in the core defense room, eyes locked on the giant main screen. The Ravager was finally close enough to be seen without scanners. Its enormous dark shape filled the space like a floating shadow. The energy glow inside it pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of something alive. No signs of communication, no signs of slowing down. He felt sweat on his palms. This was the moment everyone feared. The Supreme Commander stepped forward, voice calm but sharp. All core defense stations, prepare for contact. Around Ren, officers straightened. Soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons. Tech experts watched their screens with wide, nervous eyes. Even the bravest among them could not hide the fear. Everyone knew the core was the heart of the Empire. If it fell, everything else would fall with it. Then Admiral Solan's voice came through the speakers, strong and steady. This is our final line. We do not retreat. We do not break. All ships fire on my mark. Ren felt a spark of hope. Solan was known as the Lion of the Empire. If anyone could lead them to victory, it was him. But deep inside, a cold thought whispered, what if even he wasn't enough? The Ravager came closer. The first wave of Imperial ships moved in, forming a massive defensive wall around the core. Battleships, cruisers, interceptors, drones, thousands of them. Their engines glowed bright, their weapons charged. Their shields rose like shining barriers. Mark, Solan shouted. The core lit up. Hundreds of beams of energy, missiles, rail shots, and plasma blasts raced through space toward the unknown warship. The light was so bright that Ren had to cover his eyes. It looked like a supernova exploding in slow motion. Then the light faded and the Ravager came out without a scratch, not a dent, not a burn, not even a mark. The room fell silent. Ren felt his breath catch. The Ravager was not just strong, it was invincible. A soft pulse of light expanded around its hull. Then, quietly, almost gently, it returned fire. A single beam, thin, silent, clean. It cut through space like a needle of white light. It touched the first Imperial battleship, and the ship simply vanished. No explosion, no debris, nothing. One moment it existed, the next it didn't. Ren gasped. Shields up, scatter formation, Solan commanded, but his voice cracked slightly. The Ravager fired again. Another ship disappeared, then another, and another. The core defense fleet was crumbling, not from explosions, not from damage, but from complete erasure. It was like the warship wasn't destroying ships. It was erasing them from reality itself. Panic spread through the defense room. Officers shouted orders. Alarms blew. Screens flickered red. Ren felt his hands shaking as he tried to track the battle. But there was hardly anything left to track. After only a few minutes, more than half the fleet was gone. Admiral Solan was still fighting, still shouting commands, still trying to hold the line. But Ren could hear desperation in his voice now. He stood up and moved toward the screen showing Solan's battleship, the Imperial Dawn. It was one of the strongest ships ever built. Then the Ravager fired again. A bright line flashed across the screen. The Imperial Dawn vanished. Solan was gone. Ren felt something break inside him. The Empire's greatest warrior had been erased like dust. The Ravager continued forward, slow and unstoppable. The Supreme Commander whispered, What do we do now? Ren didn't know. No one knew. The Empire had never faced anything like this. Then a soft sound came from the communication panel. Ren looked down. A new signal. Strange symbols. The same symbols he had seen from the ancient relic fragments. It's speaking, he whispered, though the sound felt nothing like speech, more like a cold vibration in his chest. The room quieted as Ren activated the translation system. The message played. It was calm, emotionless, like a machine reciting a rule written long before humanity existed. Imperial core detected. Civilization has reached critical threat level. initiating cleansing protocol. Ren felt his legs weaken. The Ravager wasn't attacking because it wanted to. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't personal. It was following some ancient command, a program designed to destroy any civilization that grew too powerful. The Empire was simply next on the list. The Supreme Commander turned to Ren, eyes terrified. Is there any way to stop it? Ren didn't know, but he remembered something. The relic researcher, Dr. Vela, had mentioned a possible weakness, something hidden in the Ravager's core, something that required direct access. It has a heart, she had said, a power core that controls everything, but you have to reach it from inside. Inside. The idea felt impossible. How could anyone enter a ship that erased anything that touched it? But then, Ren remembered the scout ship ghost-like approaching earlier in silence. Maybe there was a way inside. Maybe the warship wasn't entirely sealed. Maybe there was a hidden path, a pocket of space between its outer shell and its inner core. Ren stood up straighter. There may be a way. The commander stared at him. Explain. Won't stop unless someone gets inside it, Ren said. Inside the Ravager. Into its core. Silence. No one volunteered. No one wanted to. Then Ren realized something. He was the first person to see the Ravager, the first to understand its movement, the one who tracked its patterns for hours, the one who noticed its energy pulsing. He knew more about it than anyone else, and he knew what had to be done. Slowly, he stepped forward. I'll go. Gasps filled the room. You, the commander said. Ren, that's suicide. Maybe, Ren said quietly, but doing nothing is worse. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just a monitor officer who preferred quiet nights and routine work. But sometimes, he thought, ordinary people had to stand between darkness and everyone they cared about. And Ren cared about the Empire. He cared about the people. He cared about the future. Even if he was terrified, he could not turn away. The commander nodded slowly, sadness in his eyes. Then may the stars guide you. Minutes later, Ren boarded a stealth shuttle. Its engines were silent. Its hull absorbed energy instead of reflecting it. It was the only ship that might slip through the Ravager's defenses. As the shuttle launched, Ren looked back at the core one last time. He thought of his family, his friends, the billions of people waiting in fear. The Ravager grew larger in front of him. A massive wall of black metal filled the view. It pulsed with cold light. It felt less like a ship and more like a nightmare made real. Ren steeled himself. I'm coming, he whispered, and I'm not letting you erase us. The shuttle entered the Ravager's shadow. Darkness swallowed him whole, and the true final battle, one no one could see, one that would decide the fate of the entire empire, began in silence.